is Terry Bradshaw, quarterback. Pittsburgh Steelers.
It's 7:15. There's a new home run champion of all time, and it's Henry Aaron.
This is baseball, Major League Baseball. And this is
ABC's Monday Night Baseball, live from Fenway Park in Boston, Massachusetts.
Looking. He's under the gun. He's flat. He throws. It is.
We are glad you have joined us for the November 10th, 2025 Past Our Prime podcast. Our very first show was January 7th, 2024. On the cover of that issue, Fran Tarkenton. And now as we approach episode 96, once again, Fran the Man Tarkenton is back on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Scott Johnston, joined weekly by my other two hosts, Bill Mahoney and Mark Hoffman. And guys, when I say the Minnesota Vikings, what comes to mind?
Losing 4 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
I know that's sad, but that was when I was a kid. That and a guy I liked a lot of the team was Sammy White.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but yeah, just losing at Super Bowls. That's all. And it's terrible because Chuck Foreman was great, but still.
My memory is, and I mentioned it before, is Fran Tarkenton hosting Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
And his opening monologue was, I'm predicting that we're going to the Super Bowl next year. Pause. And I'm predicting we're going to lose again. And the best bit was halfway through the episode, he's doing some scene like in a bedroom. And all of a sudden everyone comes in and goes, a referee comes and goes, end of half. And all of a sudden they break the set and stuff. And they bring in like the two guys like they're doing the halftime show. And we reached halftime here at Saturday Night Live. Let's take a look at the stats for Fran Tarkenton. He's attempted 15 jokes, completed 12 of them for 75 laughs. And, you know, they were doing like a whole stat thing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. I don't remember that at all.
Well, Scott, let me ask
you. It was like first year, second year. It was 76.
Yeah. Go ahead, Billy.
Just a question for you. When I mentioned Sammy White, who is the Raider that took his helmet off in the Super Bowl?
It's got to have been Tatum.
Was it? Because that's one player I remember. Now he's liked him, and he hit him really hard. He came down the middle, and
could have been George Atkinson, who just passed away.
Yeah, it might have been.
This past week, but yeah, you did not go over the middle against that Raiders secondary. No. I thought this was interesting. In 1959, the AFL awarded Minnesota a franchise. 5 months later, in January of 1960, ownership reneged on its agreement with the AFL because they were then awarded the 14th franchise in the NFL. So they were going to be an AFL team. I had no idea about that. 65 years later, they are still looking for their first Super Bowl victory. They are, as we mentioned earlier, 0-4, with those 4 losses coming in Super Bowls 4, 8, 9, and 11. So it's also been a while since they've been to a Super Bowl, which is kind of funny because, you know, they're not to pick on the other teams like the Browns or, you know, the Lions. Like the Vikings are pretty good pretty frequently, you know, they go to the playoffs. Fran Tarkenton started the last 3 of those Super Bowl losses, a Hall of Fame quarterback known equally as a scrambler and a thrower. We'll talk more on the Vikes coming up in just a bit.
Scorecard brings back what's real.
I'm going to talk about Syracuse telecaster Dave Cohen. He was doing a sports show and happened to use the old line about a tie game being about as satisfying as kissing your sister. Now, the world news that same night was pretty heavy with stories about the Secretary of State and negotiations going on in the Mideast. But 5 minutes after Cohen left the air, he received a phone call from an irate viewer who demanded, "What's wrong with kissing your sister?"
Oh, that's actually pretty funny.
Yeah, that is. What about you, Mark? Quit monkeying around.
The Atlanta Braves were going to do this program where they were going to use a chimp, you know, and he was going to have, you know, his own ball and bat and glove, and he'd sweep the bases in the 5th inning with his own little broom and stuff. Well, the director of PR for the Braves said they decided not to do it. He said, we must have had 50 calls. The telephone was ringing all day long with upset season ticket holders on the other end. He said, they were going to cancel their tickets if they continued to go with this monkey business. But what I love is the director of PR for the Braves, and I had no idea, was Bob Hope. That's fascinating, man. He had time, in his busy schedule to do that. That's pretty impressive. And Bob Hope then had I think a PR firm. This guy Bob Hope. He started as an intern in in Major League Baseball and did a lot of Atlanta sports and stuff like that. Living in Montana now. Yeah, that he must have gotten a lot of jokes back then. People today
Oh,
now would say,
sure.
Bob Hope, who's Bob Hope?
Right.
But
Yeah,
also, if
it
you think
was.
about talking about monkeys, the Angels made $1 bazillion with the rally monkey back in
Oh, they
02.
Sure did. Do they
The
still have
rally
that
monkey.
thing?
They do, and they don't bring it out as much because they stink. So, yeah, I mean, let's get honest.
How about this? I think we've talked about this in the past, but you guys remember NFL blackouts?
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
Gosh. So NFL Commissioner Pete Rozelle testified before Congress that the 2-year ban on local TV blackouts caused NFL teams to lose $9 million in ticket sales, claiming fans stayed home to watch televised games instead of attending in person. Congressman McDonald disputed Rozelle's argument, calling it pure baloney and pointing out that the cities Rozelle cited, Kansas City, Miami, and Atlanta, had poor seasons or still imposed their own blackouts, making his claims misleading. So some economists said, this is ridiculous. I don't remember when that stopped, but I can remember like playoff games. I mean, think of this: the Coliseum holds 100,000 people, or at least it did back in the day, and the Raiders would have like 85,000 people for a game, and they'd be like, nope, not a sellout, and the team would then often buy the remaining tickets to lift the blackout. But
Yep.
it was just insane. There were more often than not, pretty frequently here in LA in particular, you'd miss a home game was not on. You'd get like the Chargers Broncos game instead of
Right.
the Raiders Cowboys game or something. It was just incredible.
I want to say there was a Vikings Rams playoff game and it poured at the Coliseum, but it wasn't a sellout. And so you couldn't watch the playoff game. It was like blacked out in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
That's a smart move.
Yeah. Don't sell your product.
No, just
Keep it from them.
Obviously, the smarter people took over.
Back when quotes were bold, they said it.
Tell me this week, Bill, who is they?
Tom Apke, he's the Creighton University basketball coach, about having his younger brother Rick on the team. Well, it's one set of parents I don't have to worry about.
Yeah. Maybe.
Maybe, exactly. At the end of the day, they still go, why didn't you play him?
Right.
I mean,
Right.
Rick's good.
I don't
He's
know
your
what you
brother.
were thinking playing that other kid.
He's your brother, Tom. Please, give him a break.
Hey, Cain and Abel were brothers.
Yes, they sure were. Yep.
Mark, go for it.
I've got Orville Henry. He's the sports editor of the Arkansas Gazette, on TCU football coach Jim Schaffner, whose team has lost 18 in a row. He's such a nice guy, but if they had a naive bowl, he would coach both sides. And Jim was pretty bad. I mean, Jim, he was at TCU, I want to say he was 1-10 in 75, and he was their head coach from 74 to 76, so 3 seasons, okay? He went 1-10, 1-10, and then 0-11. He was 2-31 in his 3 years at TCU.
Wow.
And you know what's even more amazing than that? You would think a coach that went 2-31 in college wouldn't have a chance of coaching in the NFL, right? Wrong. He was the interim head coach of the Cleveland Browns, I believe in 1990. He took over after they fired their head coach, Bud Carson, and he went 1-6.
Wow.
So he's never won more than 1 game wherever he's been.
1-6 is much better than 2-31.
Yeah, well, if they gave him 11 or 10 games, he probably would.
The best of them all in his 15th NFL season, Fran Tarkenton is playing the best football of his career, leading the undefeated Minnesota Vikings while closing in on every major passing record once held by Johnny U. Despite criticism of his scrambling and his failure to win a Super Bowl, Tarkenton is consistent. He's a good leader. He's durable. He just completed 24 of 30 passes for 285 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Packers. He says the old timers have never accepted me as a good quarterback because I've run out of the pocket too often. All that does is amuse me. But Billy, Tarkenton wasn't just one of the better quarterbacks. At this time, you could make the argument he was the best quarterback in the history of the NFL.
That's right. He would take over Johnny Unitas's record for touchdowns in a season with 291. He would finish his career with 342. This is where it gets sad. Obviously, it's been 50 years, but at that time, he was the best quarterback in the NFL. But now he's 13th, 307 TDs back of Tom Brady. Oh,
I mean, it's two things. One, players are better. And two, the game is just so much different now.
yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
there were times, how many times have we talked about, Bob Greasy had a big game. He went 7 for 12 passing,
Yep.
That just doesn't
You
happen
still,
anymore.
and that's why I think Tarkenton, in a lot of ways, underrated with the fact he did throw those touchdowns. But he was also a great runner on the field as well. But when you look at Brady, I think Brady's one of those things where you look back like LeBron and the records that they have are just unbelievable because Tarkenton also set the passes completed record. He finished with 3,686. He's now 21st. That's 4,000 back of Brady.
I mean, think of that, 4,000.
That's more than
That's
that's more than Tarkenton finished with.
Yeah, insane. The Vikings have developed into a younger, deeper, more balanced team with guys like Chuck Foreman, as Billy mentioned, Brent McClanahan, Ed Marinaro, who went on to be an actor on Hill Street Blues and other things. Then, of course, their defense with Carl Eller and Jim Marshall. Tarkenton credits the team's improvement to better depth, health, experience, making this perhaps Coach Bud Grant's strongest roster yet. And Mark, they were looking at matching the Dolphins' perfect season.
Yeah, they won their first 10 games that year. They looked really dominant. And their first loss came on November 30th at the Redskins. They lost by 1 point, 31-30. They won the following week against the Packers, and then they lost at Detroit against the Lions by 7 points, 17-10, before blowing out the Bills in the final game. So they lost 2 games by a combined total of 8 points the entire season, 12-2. And they were, I think, a lot of people consider them the favorites to go to the Super Bowl that year. But a funny thing happened on the way to going to the Super Bowl. They opened up against the Dallas Cowboys in a game in which they thought they had wrapped up. They're leading 14-10. In fact, Dallas is facing, I want to say, a 4th and 20.
4th and 17.
Wow.
4th and 17 in the closing minute of the game. And Staubach completes a pass, I believe it was to Pearson, for 25 yards to midfield.
And it's like a perfect pass. He barely gets both feet. I just looked at it. He barely gets both feet down. He gets out of bounds. It's pretty miraculous until the next one.
Well, yeah. So on second down, he goes back and he throws a long pass, and the Hail Mary was born. And it looked like Pearson had pushed off on the defender, and he caught it on his hip, like inside the 5, and then just walked in the end zone. And something went flying in the end zone, and it looked like a flag at first, but it wasn't. I don't know what it was. But even the Viking defensive players were going, look, there's a flag. That was interference. That was interference. But there was no interference. It was the Hail Mary, and the Cowboys won the game 17-14.
Tarkenton remains passionate and humble, still throws at a mattress in his attic during the offseason, keeping his love for the game intact. He acknowledges Unitas as the greatest, but notes that today's game is faster and more complex, much like today's game is faster and more complex. Right, Billy?
Yeah, he said that athletes are far superior to what they used to be. They now go to health clubs instead of beer taverns. They're bigger and faster, and they're smarter. He said, you don't see linemen with fat bellies anymore. Well, linemen back in 1975, their average weight was 225 pounds. In 2025, it's now 310 pounds. So things have changed a bit.
Yeah.
So 50 years, so what does that make? That's 75, that's 85 pounds. So there would be 400-pound guys.
It's hard to imagine, right? I mean, I
Yep.
suppose that, there will be changes to the game that might impede that because that's just so unhealthy. But
Yep.
who knows? Who knows? Fran Tarkenton played 18 seasons in the NFL, but 1975 may have been his best season. A 9-time Pro Bowl quarterback, he was the NFL's MVP in 75 and led the Vikings to a 12-2 record. It was his 15th season in the NFL as he was only getting better with age. Known as the Mad Scrambler, he was the game's first true dual threat. The guys of today all play the game like Fran did over half a century ago. The only difference is 50 years ago, he was the only one doing it. When he retired, he was the NFL career leader for attempts and completions, yards and touchdowns, as well as rushing yards by a quarterback. He could do it all, and in 1986, it all added up to his induction into the Hall of Fame, and it is a privilege to have number 10 of the Minnesota Vikings, Fran Tarkenton, here with us today. Thanks for joining us on the Past Our Prime podcast, Fran.
Well, I'm glad to be with you, and you reminded me of things 100 years ago, but they were good times. And,
They were.
I'm gonna give you a thing here. If you read your newspaper today, about half of the starters at quarterback in the National Football League had missed at least one game this year, and some much more than that. And there are 32 of them, and you can't get a quarterback to stay on the field. Now, in my era, John Unitas never got hurt. Y.A. Tittle never got hurt. Roger Staubach never got hurt. And I played 18 years in the National Football League. I played 4 years in college football for the Bulldogs and 4 years in high school football. In all those years, I missed 5 games, and they're all in the NFL. And we clinched the division championship, and I broke my ankle, and I couldn't play the last 5 games. That was it. Today, my God, these guys, when they walk out on the field, they're hurt.
Yeah.
It's amazing. My team in Minnesota, in the first round, they got this guy from Michigan, really good quarterback. And he missed all last year, he got hurt. And this year, he played 2 games and got hurt again and didn't play the next 3. I don't know how you do that, but it's a different animal playing quarterback.
No question. You're not even allowed to touch them anymore and they get hurt.
That's right. In our time, they could touch me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. We've
were,
got the video.
They were badass guys. I'll tell you Joe Green's story. I played against Joe Green when he was mean Joe Green, and he was mean Joe Green. He was a monster. We played him in Yankee Stadium, and he was a rookie. And he was about 6'5", 275, and that was big back in those days. But he was really, they called him Mean Joe Green because he's mean. And so we're playing him in Yankee Stadium, and he's chasing me around. And I always like to play with the defensive lineman. I say, Joe, you're not quick enough, boy. You're not going to be able to touch me. And I kept egging him on. And finally, we're in Yankee Stadium, and I'm running for a first down, and I step out of bounds. Joe Green was following me. He didn't stop. He hit me, took my helmet off, knocked me down, and I got up, he didn't knock me out. I said, Joe, that referee's gonna not knock you out of this game. They're gonna bench you. And they did. He left. So I learned from that. I kept egging on the defensive lineman as much as I could.
Yeah.
See if I could get them out of the game.
1975, Fran, you're on the cover of SI again, and the Vikings are playing great ball. What do you remember most about this team and that MVP season of yours?
Well, we had great coaching. We had great ownership. That's leadership. We had great players and great coaches, and we had the whole thing. we played in 3 of the first 11 Super Bowls. I did. We lost all of them. And there's a reason we lost all of them, that we win our championship game. The Super Bowl was played 2 weeks after the playoffs. So Bud Grant, he coached different from everybody else. He told us, go home, enjoy our victory, and come back here next Sunday, and we'll go to the spot of the Super Bowl. We didn't practice that whole week. We didn't prepare that whole week. And we did that all 3 times. And I've talked to quarterbacks that played in Super Bowls, that won Super Bowl. I said, what did y'all do that off week? We practiced. We scrimmaged. It was the hardest scrimmages ever. They prepared. We didn't have a chance. And all those 3 Super Bowls, we were beaten the time we got on the field because we did not prepare. And we didn't know better. And so that was one of the great disappointments of my life. And because it's a team sport. Yeah, I was the most valuable player that year. I set all the class records. But that's not what I played for. I played for the team. I played for Minnesota and South Dakota and North Dakota and Iowa. They were our fans. And we were not prepared to play in the Super Bowl. And all the Super Bowl teams that beat us, there were 3 Super Bowls. We beat them the year before and the year after because we prepared. That makes sense?
Yes, absolutely. Frustrating. Very.
Yeah.
You're drafted by the Vikings in 1961, their inaugural season, but after 6 seasons there, you get sent packing to New York. And then 5 years later.
I didn't get sent. I left. I left. They had our coach was a guy named Norman Van Brockman. Norman Van Brockman, the year before 1960, they won the championship of the NFL, and he was the quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. Great player. Great player. He became our coach. He became a coach. He was the worst human being I've ever known in my life. Period. And I won't go into details. It was just a bad guy. And I put up with it for pretty much 5 or 6 years, maybe 6 years. And at the end of the year, we're playing the Atlanta Falcons, my hometown. He benched me. He didn't play me. He played somebody else, and we got beat by the Falcons. And so I come back home. I live in Atlanta. I come back home, and in January, I decided I'd go up to Minnesota to have my last meeting with Van Brock. He didn't talk to me the last 4 games of the season. Didn't talk to me. I put in the offense with our offensive coordinator. So I fly up there in January, and I sit him down, and I said, I ain't playing for you no more. You need to trade me. You don't want to be traded. I'm good for you. Gives all that stuff. I said, nope. You've had 6 years to be the right kind of guy. You're not the right kind of guy. I don't even want to be around you. So anyway, I fly back to Atlanta. I get a call from the general manager, Jim Finks. And Finks, he says to me, Van Brockman said y'all had a great call. Great, wonderful call. I said, he told you what? So I gave him the story. He said, would you meet me and the owner of the team, Bernie Ritter, who's Knight Ritter Newspapers. He's one of the 5 owners. We want to meet you in Chicago. I said, why do you want to meet me in Chicago? Because we don't want you to go. And we're going to fire Van Brockman, and we want you to meet us in Chicago. I said, nope, not going to do that. I'm not going to have his blood on my hands. And so that's how I got moved to New York. And they gave up 3 number 1 draft choices and 2 number 2 draft choices. And I went to a team in New York that was 1-12-1 with Earl Morrow, who won a Super Bowl for Miami, the quarterback. We just didn't have much there. But I played my best football in New York City. And luckily I got back to Minnesota. And then I had a coach, a leader, named Bud Grant. We had, and he was phenomenal. He's in the Hall of Fame. He wasn't like any other coach I'd ever had. And we'd go and when I went back, we went to 3 Super Bowls in 6 years. He had gone to one before I got there. So that's our behind the scenes, how I got to New York and how I got back to Minnesota.
But what made Bud Grant so different than the other coaches? What was your relationship with him like?
That's a worthy question. You ever heard of Nick Saban?
Yeah.
Nick Saban's my great friend. We replaced Blake Burton together. I see him a lot, and he now lives in the wintertime down in Florida. So a few months ago, we were having dinner, and when we have dinner, I always pick up the check. I don't want anybody else picking up the check. And so I said to him, I said, Nick, I played for Bud Grant. I played in all-star games with Tom Landry, Don Shula, and Vince Lombardi. Played with these great coaches. All of you are different. You are different from every one of them. They're different from each other. What is the secret to success? You couldn't tell me. I said, I've got an answer for you. See if all of you people are yourselves. You're authentic. You're not trying to be something that you're not. And they were all different, but they were great leaders, and great, and that's what it is. And Bud, he wasn't an X and O's guy. He didn't put it in the offense, didn't put it in the defense. Lombardi did, and Landry did. He just didn't do that. He hired other people. That's where he was comfortable. And all of them were great coaches. I couldn't say one is better than the other. They're all were great, but they were their authentic self. They weren't phones.
You know, I obviously when we get someone as great as yourself to come on our show, I go through and just pour through stats, which I love to do either way. You're still top 20 in passing yards and passing TDs in the NFL nowadays in 2025. Do you look back and think you were underrated? Because you were absolutely amazing. And I don't think a lot of people nowadays look back on that.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I know this. I give Archie Mandy's one of my great friends, and I've got to know Peyton through him. And so I tell Archie and I tell Peyton, I said, you know, I broke all the passing records, most yards gained passing, most passes completed, more touchdown passes. My record stood for 19 years. And Peyton was as good a quarterback as ever played. He's a great player of the modern era. His stats lasted 3 years. And so, but that's way back then. Nobody scrambled back then. I didn't know what a scramble was. I scrambled in high school, but I didn't know what that was about. I scrambled in college and won the SEC championship. I don't know what that was about. And so that's how I played. Nobody else was playing like that when I came to football in 1961. Johnny Unitas was the guy, and he was great. He was my hero. And Y.A. Tittle was great, but they never ran. I didn't think anything about it. I didn't even plan in high school or college or coming into. I didn't plan to run. It's just what I did. And I picked up yards rushing, and I also bought time to give my receivers time to get open. And now, if you can't run, like Patrick Mahomes and the big guy up in Buffalo, all of them can run. My buddy Kirk Cousin, who came the Vikings way after me, is a good friend of mine down here in Atlanta. He could pass and be a quarterback, but I said, Kirk, you got to use your legs. You got to run. But he never did. I don't think you could play in this era without being mobile. And you take your great quarterbacks from Mahomes to the guy up in Buffalo, they can, and the guy at Baltimore, my gosh, he can run like a deer. But they can throw. You got to be able to throw. But if you don't have wheels, or you're not willing to run and buy time to throw it and pick up a first down, you're not going to be very successful in pro football.
What made you such a great scrambler? Because it's not necessarily speed. It's got to be more than that.
It is more than speed. I don't know. It's an instinct that a player's got to be authentic also. You got to be who you are. I had the ability to use my feet and run. I had the ability. I called my own plays back then, but everybody called their own plays. But I was involved in putting the offense together because that's my nature. And I could understand the game plan. If I'm putting it in with Jerry Burns, our offensive coordinator, then I'm gonna have an advantage. And so I don't know. I just from the time I played in Little League football, we won a state championship in Athens High School. That's how I played. I didn't know that I played like that until it became a big thing with pro football because no quarterback scrambled. John Unitas didn't scramble. Wyatt Tittle, Sid Luckman, Sammy Ball, they didn't move out of their pocket. And I didn't do it because I could be different. It was me. It was authentic me. That's what I naturally had done all of my career.
That 1975 team, that the best Vikings team you played at? And if it was not for a Roger Staubach Hail Mary, Drew Pearson, would that have been the Vikings team that won the Super Bowl?
No, you know, we weren't prepared to win the Super Bowl. We took that, as I told you, we took that week off in between. Every week we played a game, and when we get to the playoffs, played every week. Super Bowl, we had 2 weeks in there. We didn't practice. Other teams practiced hard, and that's why we lost. We weren't prepared. But think about, we all went in school, and if we didn't study and prepare, we fail. In business, if we don't study and prepare when we're trying to make our living being in business, we fail. In football, I've talked to the guys that won Super Bowls, from Roger Staubach and to everybody else. I said, what did y'all do that off week? That we took over. They said we've had the hardest scrimmages we've ever had. We scrimmaged, they were prepared. We didn't even play good in the Super Bowls. We had no chance from the time we stepped on the field because we weren't prepared. I put in the offense when I was during the season, but they put the offense in that bye week, and so this is not my offense, it was somebody else's offense. And you look back and say, how could that be? Professional sports, that's the way it was. They're smarter than that. They're smarter. They go and practice that off week because when you go to the Super Bowl, it's a zoo, right? I mean,
Right.
It's the biggest event in the world, sports event, and so it's hard to prepare that second week at the Super Bowl site because everybody's after you for this and for that and for that, and but it was a great lesson of life for me. So when I go out and I've been in business all my life, I better be prepared. I better challenge myself to be able to know what I need to do to be able to make things work.
But in that 75 season, when you go 12-2, and then you're playing the Cowboys in the first round and you're up 14-10, I guess Staubach, first of all, completed that long fourth down play before the Hail Mary to Pearson. What went through your mind when that was happening?
Well, that's an interesting thing. That was a monumental day. And that was not a Super Bowl, that was the championship game played in the Twin Cities of Indianapolis, St. Paul. And we were equal teams, both good teams. And we had just scored a touchdown on a long drive, and there was about 3 minutes left in the game, and Roger had the ball, and he got up to about the midfield, just across the midfield. We had about 30 minutes left on the clock. I didn't know what a Hail Mary pass was. Nobody did. But he goes back and he throws the ball up in the air, and we had two defensive backs on his receiver. And the ball hits a hand, either the receiver's hand or somebody else's hand, and flops into his receiver's hand, and we lose the game right there. We hadn't won. And here's something that you don't know, and your listeners don't know. It was a monumental day for me. Not because we lost the game, that was monumental, but something much more monumental than that. Because my wife and I and some of my teammates go out to a Winnebago. We get a Winnebago and go out in the parking lot and and watch the second game of the playoffs until the people got out of the parking lots at the stadium. And while I'm sitting there, Joe Buck and his son's now he does commentary from the pro football games. He was at halftime and he said, and I'm out there, our game is lost. And he brought the news. Fran Tarkenton's father, Reverend Dallas Tarkenton, died this afternoon from a heart attack.
Oh my God.
And I'm here. I've lost this game of my life. That disappointment, I'm with my family and my teammates in a Winnebago, and I've got the television on, and I get that message that they're having.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Yeah.
It puts everything in perspective. You lose a game, but you lose so much more.
Yeah, it does. And, here I am, 35, 36 years old. I've been talking to my dad all week because before the playoffs, we would talk, at least Friday, Saturday, and he sounded great. And he was a preacher, and he was down in Savannah, Georgia, and he had preached. And he came back, and my brother was there with him, and he was tight. And the game was tight, and he was tight. He never was an athlete, and he was only 62 years old. And I've got to hear that I lost the championship game, but I lost my dad, and that was irreplaceable.
Oh, Fran, that's horrible. That's not something you ever recover from. You retire and you have a fine career in front of the camera, Monday Night Football, and then that's incredible. And then you really embark on your second career as a businessman. What are the similarities between being a quarterback and being the CEO of Tarkenton Financial?
Well, here's the deal. I made a lot of money in football. My first salary was $12,500. I worked in the off seasons. I started my first business when I was 25 years old. It's like in sports. If you don't play sports when you're young, you can't make it. If you don't start being a businessman when you're young, you're not going to make it. And I had a paper route in Washington, D.C. when I was 7 years old. So I worked in the off season. I started businesses, and I've maybe started, I don't know, 8 or 9 or 10 businesses. We're still in my office right here now, and we are launching a new business that we built an AI for small business entrepreneurs. And we're having so much fun doing that. We've got other companies. We have companies that insurance companies that we have, but we've the last 4 years, we partnered with big partners, and we have gone out and helped small business entrepreneurs have a better strategy and more tools to be able to get their companies successful. And they cannot afford what the big guys have. And now with AI, NVIDIA, if you're going to buy their chips, you're going to pay hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to get them. A small business entrepreneur cannot do this. So we started building about 3 months ago, an AI product that works, and it's good, and it's not expensive. And so a small business entrepreneur can come in and get our product and put all their people on the product and have a better chance of making their business successful. The mission of being a quarterback of the football team is to help your teammates be better. And I've carried that with me. It's not about me. It's about my customers. And we've been lucky enough to have customers that are, ADP has been our customer for 7 years now. IBM was my customer and partner more than customer for way back in 30, 40 years ago. And we've always had great partners that were big businesses that helped us go out and help small businesses have a better chance to make it. And to make it, they gotta be able to have products that people want, and they gotta have strategies that work to help them get in front of more people to make their business successful. So I have just as much fun doing this as I did playing football all those years, because I'm doing the same thing playing football. The mission of a quarterback is to make your teammates better. The mission of business is to make your customers better.
You aren't just a name and a brand, though. You're still active in the day-to-day running of your company. And in this day and age, we're not talking about fax machines and computers the size of a wall. Like you said, we're talking AI and computers that fit into your hand. Tell me and our audience about this PIP IQ and how it's helping problem solve risks for businesses who are using AI.
All right, our PIP IQ is so cool. And I've got a guy sitting right over here. He's only about 43, 44, 45 years old. So he's a newbie, but he's a great business guy. He's been with me for 14 years, and he's been putting this product together, and he's done it magnificently. So tell him in 2 minutes what PIP IQ does.
I thought I was here to talk about my 1989 Carnes Pro Junior basketball.
We'll do that next week, Will.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. A little disappointed, but yeah, so lots of talk about, AI productivity out in the market, but small and mid-sized businesses really are struggling and not seeing that. 1 in 20 AI pilots succeed. So 19 out of 20 are failing right out of the gate, and we're actually seeing adoption in that marketplace actually on the decline year over year. So small business is really, unfortunately, kind of being left behind right now by this race that we're seeing in the AI space. A lot of it, they're stuck in the noise, unclear goals, you're dealing with bad data, old approaches to technology. Employees aren't being very well trained, and in some cases, they're actually somewhat fearful of what this actually means to them and their very existence in the workplace. So we're setting out to change that. We're off to a great start. PIP IQ, we're bringing clarity, security, simplicity, and just great productivity to that small business out there across the nation. Essentially, we're providing the ability, if anybody's ever used any platform out there, they are abundant, they are accessible. That is a good thing on one hand. On the other hand, you are able to, and employees, 80% of employees out there are using publicly available AI chat tools. And about half of them, research suggests, are using them to submit company sensitive information to go and perform their job. So if you're thinking about customer information, proprietary or intellectual property or legal contracts, those types of things are being put into these public chatbots, and the company, your customers are not aware of that, not consenting to that, not providing permissions to that. So one of the big features and one of the things we're setting out to solve and are solving is making sure that we're providing a platform to allow those employees and those business owners to harness the power of AI, but do it in a way that is protecting that proprietary information and sensitive information.
We make them more prepared, and we don't charge them $8 billion. It's the best bargain of business I've ever been in. And we can make it available to all their employees, and they pay $700-800 a month for that. And they can all use it. They're not having to pay $1 million, or in the case of the billions of dollars. So
right,
that's what keeps me going. 85 years old. we never stop. In football, any kind of sport, if you ever stop, you die. And we're innovating and creating, and the small business market doesn't get much help because they get beat up when you got AI by the big companies who've got the billions of dollars to be able to spend on it, but they're left out. And for the last 20 years, we haven't left them out. And this is the biggest thing we've ever done that really makes a difference in their business. And I'm having a lot of fun. 85, I'm in my office now. And, but I don't have to be in my office to work. It's not work. If you love if you're making a difference in somebody's life, whether it be business or individual or whatever, and of course in football the same way. If you're making your teammates better and you're giving your team a better chance to win, if we can go out and produce things that help small businesses be better, more efficient, make more money, be successful, win. Why would I want to go down to the senior places in Florida? I love Florida, but I don't want to go down there and retire. And I ain't retiring. I'm not retired.
Fran, your enthusiasm is my God. It seems like you could keep playing. I was looking over your PIP IQ as you guys were talking about it. But Fran, I got to ask you, you had one of the greatest defenses playing with you in the Purple People Eaters. How comforting was it to know that they were there if there was ever any issue in terms of shutting down another team?
The reason I was successful was because our defense was great. And I had great offensive linemen. But on defense, we had the Purple People Eaters. Jim Marshall just died about a couple of months ago. He played on that first Viking team in 61. He played in all the Super Bowls. He died at 87. He was an enormous leader, great human being, and then we had Alan Page and Carl Eller. And they were the three guys, and we had four guys. The fourth guy was always maybe 4 or 5 other guys. And so it was just great to play in that environment. And I got to play for Bud Grant I got his picture right up here above me. He was my coach for the years we went to Super Bowls. He was our coach, and he was as great a human being as I've ever known. And he made me better, and he gave me a lot of rope. But he never raised his voice. He never yelled. And coaches were known, they're yelling and cursing and why and that. Never did that. He was a great human being, and we had great players, great owners, great coaches, and that's how we were able to win those last 6 years of my life in football with the Vikings. And again, we were in 4 of the first 11 Super Bowls.
Lightning strikes as answers try. Buzzers ring chaos in the air. Trivia time, truth or dare.
So you were the first professional athlete to ever host Saturday Night Live, which a lot of people don't know.
Right.
Yeah, and you had a couple great jokes in that show. I still remember it.
That's exactly right. I had it was the second year of Saturday Night Live. You had all the old time people that John Belushi, and it goes on and on and on. And we lost the Super Bowl to the Oakland Raiders, and we played it in LA. And I come up there, I never knew what the show was. And I've got to go and rehearse the show from 8 to 10, and then it goes live at 10:30. We got through half the show. The same guy that's running the show today as the producer was there. I had more fun doing that. But what I did, I went in there and I got John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd and those guys. I said, I had to do about 7 skits. What do I know about skits? I had no idea. I said, I want you to do these things. Let me watch you do it. And then maybe and that's what I did. I've learned everything I know in football business is because of somebody else I learned from. I've never had, and that show did well, only because of those guys. I did pretty well in my career was because I had great coaches and great teammates. In business, I've had great partners. IBM was my partner. And ADP's been my partner. And I could go on and on and on. And I do a lot of work with Apple. So these people around me inspire me and make me better. When we think we've got all the answers, we don't. And so I keep learning. And that's the fun of it all.
So here's your trivia question. You're the very first athlete to host Saturday Night Live. There've been 34 athletes that have hosted the show.
Yeah.
The second athlete to host the show after you, true or false, was John Madden.
Wow. I don't think so.
You're right, and it was not John Madden.
Wasn't it? Peyton Manning did it, but he's
Yes.
way off.
No, it was
I'm not sure who it was after me. Who was it?
a very famous name, O.J. Simpson.
O.J. Simpson. I didn't know he did that. You know,
Yeah.
I was a good friend of O.J. Simpson. And that whole thing was so bad. He was a great player. And he was fun to be around. And all the things that came out of that, I just couldn't believe. And I'm sorry for all the people. He was a great, great player. He was a great running back. I played against him in the last game of one of our Super Bowl years in Buffalo. And I said, I broke one of Johnny Unitas' passing records. And O.J. Simpson set a record that night for most yards gained running. And big personality. I just couldn't believe that all that could happen. But it did, and he's passed on, I guess, now. But he was a great talent, just a wasted life, unfortunately.
Yeah. Hey, Fran, when we talk football, all the stats, all the wins, and those great battles with your guys, in the end, it's the relationships that matter most, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you miss the guys?
Oh, I miss the guys. I got a picture back there of my 5 offensive linemen that took me to those Super Bowls. Ed White, Ron Yeri, Mel Sunday, Mick Tinglehall, Grady Alderman. 2 of them are in the Hall of Fame now. Some of the others should get there. I lived and died with my teammates. I spent all my time with my teammates. And the most I spent was usually the offensive lineman. Makes sense, right? If they don't knock people down, I get knocked down. But, you know, and Ahmad Rashad, who was Bobby Moore in college, these relationships were so, and the ones that are still living, and Ahmad, thank God he's still living, just great human beings that are lifelong friends. And we've gone through the wars together. And we won a lot, but we also lost. And we had disappointments. But one thing we knew, that we had each other's back. And no matter what went on, those relationships, we were 24/7 for 18 years. And they're unforgettable. And, you know, you go out and in business, you know, it takes a long time to build your business and make it work. We played for 60 minutes. And you either won or lost. Won anything in between. And, but I never learned anything from winning. I learned from losing. When we'd lose a game, I'd come back, put the projector on and get the film of the game to see what we did wrong. When we won, we'd get our wives and girlfriends out, we'd go to dinner and have a drink or two. I never learned much from winning. Everything I've learned in my life is from losing.
And you learn not to take a week off before the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Good for you. I have talked to so many quarterbacks that won the Super Bowl. Phil Simms and he had Bill Parcells as his head coach at the time. And he said, we scrimmaged every day and then off week. It was brutal, and they won a Super Bowl. That makes all the sense in the world. And I wish I could have it back, but it just wasn't, just, our staff, that's the way they did it. And the only time I've admitted that was when my buddy Bud Grant, whose picture's right here, because he was our coach. He didn't think we needed that. And he was right about everything else, but that one he wasn't right about. Yeah. But it wasn't because he just changed just what he did. And these are the first 11 Super Bowls of all time.
Right.
So we didn't know how to do that in between, but they learned. But the guys that we got beat by, they were prepared better than we.
The three of us have worked in the media for over 100 years combined, but on this show, we take off those professional hats and we try to remember what it was like to watch those players that had such an impact on us as kids. And once again, we are fans like we were so long ago, fans of players like Hall of Famer Fran Tarkenton, one of the all-time greats. Just a pleasure to talk to you today. Hall of Famer football player, Hall of Famer person. Thank you, Fran.
Enjoy it. Thank you, guys.
We started this show on January 7th, 2024. The first issue we talked about was January 7th, 1974, with Fran Tarkenton on the cover. For 2 months, I tried like heck to get in touch with him because I wanted that first show to have the guy on the cover. And I talked to his people, or tried to, but to no avail. So we had to pivot. But now, our 97th show, and thanks to guests like Rocky Blyer, Larry Zonka, Nancy Lieberman, Rick Barry, Bernie Perrant, Mike Eruzione, Amy Alcott, I could go on and on. Well, if you would have told me after our first show that we would end up getting Fran on the strength of our list of guests, I wouldn't have believed it, and yet it just happened. It's a really big day here for our show, guys.
Yeah. That's an amazing get and an amazing person. He was even better than advertised.
Yes.
Right?
He was answering questions that I had, but he answered them when he was talking. Like, you guys.
Before we started asking him, he answered questions.
Done.
He answered questions before we started asking him.
Yes. I kept thinking, okay, he's got me there. Okay, he's got me there. And yeah, wow.
No, and to me, the biggest thing he said is he never learned anything from winning. He learned from losing.
Yep.
Which is such a great thing for young people to realize. You have to not be afraid to fail. That's how you become successful.
You could tell that he really enjoyed that trip down memory lane for Saturday Night Live, too.
Oh, he did.
Yeah. That's why I wanted to set him up. So I'm glad he answered that, while we were doing the trivia.
Yeah. Good stuff. All right, let's move on. Baby, there's gold outside. When Secretariat's first foals began arriving, 30 in all, their owners were thrilled to find them strong, healthy, and well-bit with hardly a flaw among them. While some breeders plan to sell their young horses at prestigious auctions like Keeneland or Saratoga, others chose to keep and race theirs. These guys basically won the lottery. They were getting Secretariat's offspring, and Secretariat was producing a lot of offspring.
Sure was, man. That guy was that. He was living the life. He had, what he said, they said he officially sired 663 foals during his 15-year career at stud. Damn, that sounds like Mark.
Yeah, that is for me. That's the way that my life is, man. I get in a corral and I just kind of like,
there's no horsing
I'm streaking. I got no clothes on and I'm just walking around looking for a colt, looking for a filly.
Nice.
Oh,
nice. You're looking for Larry Boa.
We don't have it.
I'm gonna get myself into more trouble here. So
yeah, you really are. You really are.
But I think it's great. They go triple sec is the horse that's featured here. I guess was the first by Secretariat, and she didn't have any kind of a career,
Did you say
but
triple sack?
no, triple sec.
Oh, I was thinking that's a whole different horse.
Get your mind out of the gutter.
That dude's packing sacks, buddy. Sorry.
Let's talk a little basketball. No lowdown blues in this Jazz style. In late 1975, the New Orleans Jazz, yes, now the Utah Jazz, that's where they got their name. They came from New Orleans. They're suddenly the surprise story of the NBA, off to a very good record, 5-1 as of this writing. I think they would win their next one as well to get to 6-1. A stunning turnaround for a team that had needed 39 games to get to 5 wins the previous season. Now playing in the massive Louisiana Superdome alongside the struggling Saints and Tulane Green Wave, the Jazz found a spark in their new surroundings and in their leader, Pete Maravich. But Billy, things turned south kind of quickly.
Yeah, like you said, they beat the Lakers to go 6-1. Everyone's having a good time. They're dancing a jig there. Then they lost 15 of 17, including a 5 and 2 6-game losing streaks. They finished 38-44, which I guess for them wasn't terrible considering where they were, but still, that start sounded like, okay, they're on their way.
Yeah. Yeah. Much of the team's revival credited to new coach. And this is one of those names as a kid. I just knew this name. I don't know. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't be able to pick him out of a lineup, but Butch Van Bredekoff,
Yeah.
who replaced Scotty Robertson early in the prior season, introduced a new philosophy of movement and defense. So they got better, and a lot of that was due to Maravich's evolution from this flashy player to more of a disciplined leader. But compared to last year, Mark, even though 38-44 doesn't sound like much, they were much better.
Oh yeah, because the year before they so when this article came out, they were 5-1. The year before, they didn't get their 5th win to the middle of January. So a much better start for this team. But for all these Utah Jazz fans now that like go, how did they come up with the name Jazz? This is the reason why it started in New Orleans, and the name made perfect sense back then.
Perfect sense, yeah. Yeah, it's funny because I wonder why they didn't change the name. That's kind of strange, to be quite honest. I mean, like
a lot of great jazz clubs there in Utah.
All right, little college football. Plainly stated, it's Nebraska. The Cornhuskers were supposed to be in a rebuilding year after losing a slew of key players from the previous season, including star quarterback David Humm, who would go on to be Ken Stabler's backup for many years. But under the calm, methodical leadership of Coach Tom Osborne, they're doing pretty well. They just beat Missouri 30-7 behind quarterback Vince Ferragamo's 3 touchdowns. And even in transition, Nebraska's roster overflowed with talent, proof that rebuilding in Lincoln meant competing for championships. But 50 years later, Billy, those championship days seem like forever ago.
Yeah, Nebraska's irrelevant, except maybe to the people in Nebraska. Remember, there wasn't the day after Thanksgiving. It used to be Oklahoma, Nebraska, or was it on Thanksgiving? It was a big game and everyone was excited. When is the last Nebraska game that any of you guys thought, okay, man, this is a big one? There isn't any.
No.
They've just sort of fallen off the map since they went to the Big Ten.
Probably 1990s, I'm thinking. Turner Gill or late
Yeah.
80s.
But when we were at CBS back in the 90s, that was when Tommy Frazier was there with Osborne, and they were ripping it up.
They go 13-0 in 1994, 12-0 in 95, 13-0 in 97. I mean, that's 38-0, and in 96 they didn't go 3-11.
No.
Osborne said, "This team wants to win more than any team I've had. Of course, wanting to and doing it are quite different." And that was the case at the end of the season, Billy. They started off really good, but didn't finish so well.
No, they were outscored 52-24 in their final 2 games. They lost to Oklahoma and ASU in the Fiesta Bowl. But hey, 19 years later, they did win back-to-back national championships.
Yep. Osborne had
just, they were a decent team. They just weren't upper echelon back in the day.
And that field is now called Tom Osborne Field.
How old is Osborne now? I mean, because he seemed old in 95, and he's still alive, right?
Yeah.
What is he, 88 maybe?
He is exactly 88. My goodness.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
That's pretty good, Bill.
I know, yeah, man. I got my Tom Osborne stuff now.
Yeah. He
Bring it on.
retired from football and went and I think he got elected to Congress.
That's right. I
Yeah,
think you're right.
he got into
I think
politics.
You're right.
Yeah. And we know one guy that voted for him. Charlie Winkler of Grand Island, Nebraska, might just be the most devoted college football fan in America. A real estate guy by trade. He lives and breathes Nebraska Cornhusker football. He structures his life around the team's schedule. Billy, he does not miss a thing.
No, he goes to all home and away Nebraska games. He goes to all home and away freshman games. He attends all intra-squad scrimmages in the spring and fall. And then sometimes he just drives to Lincoln to sit in the Memorial Stadium parking lot alone with the wind and dream about good times. And if he ever misses a game, which he never does, he tape records the radio broadcasts of all Nebraska games and files them. Passed away in 1992.
It's funny you mentioned that he passed because back then he said he dreamt of having his ashes scattered over Memorial Stadium during a game. His wife Doris said, proof that all fools aren't dead yet. Now the moment you've all been waiting for. Bill,
Uh-oh.
have a seat. Mark,
Yep.
it's your time, baby. Make us some money. Tell us about this ad.
Yeah, I've done a lot of ads here on this podcast, but this is my all-time favorite. It is an ad for the new Dodge Charger. They're introducing it, and the line is, once you've looked, you're hooked. But what makes this article so great is it has a male model in it, a rugged masculine guy with his hands out in the open saying, look at my cool ride. And he's at the beach and there's jagged rocks behind him and the ocean. And I looked at this guy and said, he kind of looks familiar to me. You know, it kind of looks like something out of a Magnum PI episode. And then I looked closer and yes, indeed, it is Tom Selleck. And this is before Magnum PI. This is when he's just a struggling actor, taking jobs, including print ads.
Yeah.
And he's doing the print ad. Not because he's Tom Selleck, because they needed the model in there to, sell the car, and that's what he's doing.
He was 30 years old. And
he's about 10 years out of SC, yeah.
Trying to get a break.
And he did like a lot of television, he had small roles on a lot of television shows, a lot without that mustache. So, but you always recognize his voice.
I mean, think about it. I think Magnum PI had to be on for 10 years. Then he had a recurring role on Friends for years and years.
Yeah.
And then Blue Bloods ran for about 15 years. So he's had quite a career.
And he was supposed to be he was supposed to be Indiana Jones, but he couldn't get out of his Magnum contract. So that's how Harrison Ford got the role.
Oh, wow. That's a big one.
Yeah.
Little more college football. You can't hold those linebackers. Penn State's decade of dominance under Coach Paterno is owed to his unmatched tradition of great linebackers, a lineage so consistent it's as if the same four men nicknamed Fritz and Hero and Mike and Backer have patrolled the field since like the mid-'60s. Against Maryland, that legacy was on full display as Greg Backer Buttle was doing everything, Billy. Tell me about him.
Yeah, he was a guy that, he doesn't get the publicity that some of the other big linebackers got through the years, which you guys will talk about in a sec. But he did play 9 years in the NFL with the New York Jets. He had a pretty decent career. We were talking, anytime you play 1 year in the NFL, you're pretty great. So 9 years for Greg Buttle.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking earlier, Jack Ham, LeVar Arrington.
Yeah. There's been a few. What is it? They're on the top of my head because when someone says their name, you know them.
Right. Anyone else jump out at you guys?
Well, Ham was the big name to me.
Yeah.
He had a great career in the NFL.
He did. He's often, the two jacks on that Steelers defense. Lambert gets a lot of because of the teeth and stuff, but boy, Jack Ham, he was phenomenal. Both Hall of Famers. What else is going on in college football that week, Mark? Tell me about this new coach in Washington.
Oh, yeah, because he ends up beating UCLA, and his name is Don James. It's his first year as head coach of the Washington Huskies. And in his first two seasons, 75 and 76, he was 11-11, basically. He was 500. But after that, he started winning. He went to four Rose Bowls. He, I think, won four Rose Bowls. He was 150, 60, and 2 at Washington. He won a national championship in 1991, was really one of the great coaches, you know. And I still have a program somewhere, actually probably burned up in the fire, where it's a whole profile of Don James coaching the Washington Huskies. He was clearly one of the elite coaches in the Pac-8, Pac-10, and in the country.
I would think that would be highly doubtful that that didn't burn up in the fire.
You're probably right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so sad, Mark. My gosh. The day before he faced California, USC's John McKay confirmed rumors that he is out of here, heading to the NFL to coach the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, one of two new NFL teams. So John McKay, who has had an unbelievable run here at USC, is the rest of the Pac-8 at the time has to be thrilled that he's leaving. Although John Robinson replaces him, right?
Yeah.
He did okay.
Well,
Oh yeah, he did very well.
As for Cal coach Mike White, he's just beginning to enjoy life in the Pac-8. It's his fourth year at Cal. But tell me, Billy, about the guy on the cover of SI in a couple of weeks that's running all over the place for the Golden Bears.
yeah, Chuck Muncie. He accumulated 205 yards on a bum ankle. Those are going to be tough running back with a bad ankle. Cal did beat USC 28-14. Chuck Muncie seems to be in a lot of these issues over the last few weeks.
Yeah, it was a great NFL player too, right?
Yes, he was.
He was, yeah. I always remember him. He was one of the first and only guys that he wore glasses.
Yep.
You
Yeah,
know,
those
when he
goggles
played. So
over,
you'd
yeah.
look, you'd see this, helmet, and you'd be like, I think that guy's wearing glasses, and he was. All right, let's get towards the end here.
Oh, the record. Because somebody's got to keep score.
How's Marcel Dion doing with the Kings?
Well, Marcel Dion's doing great. They started the season being shut out by a combined score of 16-0. But then Marcel Dion said, oh, I better score some points. So he did. He scored 24 points in 12 October games, including a hat trick and a 6-0 shutout of even more terrible Washington.
So you're telling me not the greatest start, but then he picked things up.
Yes, he did. Yes,
Yeah.
but usually you don't start the season losing 9-0 and then 7-0.
My goodness, no. And they were supposed to be good that year. They were
Yeah,
good
they
the year
were.
before.
They were, yes, they were.
Yeah.
And that, but I mean, those are the years where defense was optional.
I can tell you that I know probably, I think we named both of them, Pete Weber and this guy, the only bowlers I could ever name off the top of my head. Mark, what did this guy, Earl Anthony, what'd he do?
Well, Earl Anthony became the first bowler to earn more than $100,000, and he won 7 tournaments in a single PBA season. It's interesting. I would love to look at the stats. How many bowlers today make more than 100,000? I would think a lot.
I would think a lot. It's not as popular as it was back when Chris Schenkel and ABC
yes.
Sports was doing bowling on TV every weekend, but still the stakes have got to be much higher than they were.
I think the problem with bowling on TV is all these bowlers are really good. How many times do they roll it and it's a gutter ball, or it only knocks down 2 pins, I think it'd be better if they blindfolded them or made them be like, bowl with their other hand, make it challenging for them.
Yeah.
But remember back in our day, bowling was a big thing. Chick Hearn had Bowling for Dollars.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the PBA was every Saturday or Sunday.
Well, my favorite activity, I would love to go bowling like on the weekends. Like,
yeah, bowling. You and I went bowling before together, Mark.
Real people, real stories. Faces in the crowd.
Mark, good luck pronouncing this team.
Oh, yeah. Well, first I'm going to talk about Scott Crawford. That's easy to pronounce. He's a junior at, and I hope I'm saying this right, I apologize to all these people, Lenore Rhine College in Hickory, North Carolina. He led his team to the all-college record in rushing, 837, in total offense, 914 for one game. So in one game, the team rushed, not him, but the team rushed for 837 yards, and they had 914 yards of total offense and a 69-14 win over Davidson. This running back Crawford had 15 carries, 247 yards, and scored 4 touchdowns in that game. So I was wondering, where is he in their record book? So I went to look, and they still play football there. And right now, in terms of rushing, he is 4th on the all-time list. In 3 seasons there, he rushed for 3,438 yards. Only 3 guys have rushed for more than Scott has.
Wow.
So Scott,
I don't recall that. I didn't know if I had known that college, but until a couple years ago when the Patriots took, I want to say it was in the 2nd round, Kyle Duggar.
You just traded him.
Who they just traded like yesterday or something like that. But and I remember when they drafted him, you're always trying to get video of the guys, right? And it was very difficult to get video of Kyle Duggar back 3 years ago. So
hey, Rex Harrison went there. And again, this is for old people. Rex Harrison was a famous actor, but
My Fair Lady?
Yep, My Fair Lady.
It's time for the 19-hole.
Yeah, it said, this is from John Rotker and Will Webb. Like he said, your cover, for the first time, your cover was not a jinx. He said, in fact, your spring training cover was a prophetic one. It showed not just 1, but 5 members of the Cincinnati Reds pitching staff, and the pitcher throwing the ball was Clay Carroll, the winner in Game 7 of the World Series.
I mean, you can't get more unjinxy than that.
Yep.
Right? I got one. I can completely endorse your comments on how television has downgraded the traditions of baseball. I liked the World Series better when the real fans carried around radios, caught a few innings on television, and filled in the rest with reports from friends. Somehow it doesn't seem right that Fenway Park's time in the sun came at midnight. That's from J.C. Reinhardt of Toledo. J.C. was a genius at marketing.
Yes.
He liked it. It was better for baseball to hear through your friends how the game is going.
Yes.
Not
Yes.
to watch it.
No.
Hey, before we get out of here, any final thoughts, Billy?
Yeah, next week we get a guy that I'm very familiar with, and I think we all are. Dave Schultz. Dave Schultz going to be in our show. For those that don't know, he was a big, what do you say? I'd say one of the greatest fighters ever. Or,
Part of the Broad Street Bullies.
There you go. And sort of bringing it back, there was one of the articles here about the Minnesota Fighting Saints and the WHA. They made brawling part of their major selling point. They brought in the Hanson brother characters from the 77 cult classic Slapshot. That's Jeff, Jack, and Steve Carlson. So we're going to have a guy that actually did it for real in terms of his fighting and his sticking up for his teammates.
And if I understand, Bill is actually going to challenge Schultz to a
I don't know how old he is. I'd take one shot and be done. You look at that guy's fighting resume. He had 300 penalty minutes in his first year with Philly. He was a good player around the net, though. He could score goals. He could do what he had to do. But man, he dropped the gloves with everybody. I watched a clip of him fighting guys. Boy, it was just,
And man, we're talking brutal fights.
Yes, these weren't the ones where the refs just stand to the side.
Yeah.
Right.
And there were a couple where he just gets the guy's jersey and the guy basically can't even defend himself. He's just being pummeled. It is brutal.
Yeah, he's as a guest wise in terms of the hockey, the Sports Illustrated is violence because of the court case with the 2 guys that, what was it, Boucher and Forbes?
Yeah.
So it's about that. But Dave Schultz really epitomized what hockey was back in the 70s in terms of it was a fight a minute.
It was. Yep. Hey, thanks for joining us for the November 10th, 2025 Past Our Prime podcast, where we've come full circle from our first episode on January 7th, 2024, when Fran Tarkenton first graced the cover of Sports Illustrated. Now nearly 100 episodes later, he's back on the cover again as we revisit his legacy and his time with the Vikings. That's all for today. Thanks for listening. For Mark, for Bill, I'm Scott, and we are Past Our Prime.